If you're positive, your next door neighbor is 34% more likely to be happy, and his next door neighbor, who you don't even know, is roughly 15% more likely to be happy. So your happiness spreads several layers out in this form of emotional contagion.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wondered how to stay healthy, safe, and more positive than ever during this ever-changing time, then do we have the Mind to Matter show for you. Today I'll be talking with Dr. Dawson Church, award-winning author of The Genie in Your Genes, EFT Tapping expert, energy healing expert and researcher, the editor of Energy Psychology, and the author of one of the most brilliant, important, and must-read books on the science of mind and matter, Mind to Matter. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about the astonishing science of how your brain creates material reality and how we can use it to flip today's coronavirus challenges right on their head. That plus we'll talk about 1983 Ford Econolines, ecstasis and Navy SEALs, the world's greatest laugh, and what in the world singing in the shower has to do with anything. So welcome to the show, Dawson. Are you ready to shine? The laugh is already coming out. Woohoo! All right, before we dive right into things, if you're singing in the shower right now, you're doing so on one ankle. What in the world happened, and how are you using your techniques to flip things on their head?
Well, the ankle is a funny story. So I was dancing at a big conference with transformational leaders like John Gray and Marcy Shimoff and Jack Canfield a couple of months ago. And somebody stepped on my foot and I tore my Achilles tendon, didn't know it for a couple of months, went into the hospital 6 weeks later, got an MRI, and they found that my Achilles tendon had a huge gap of like 4 inches in it. And so all the muscles were messed up in my leg. I needed emergency surgery, which I'm going to have tomorrow, actually. But my wife was commenting, and also people were saying afterwards, after I got this diagnosis last week, you know, you're totally calm. My wife was like, do you fail to understand the gravity of the situation here? But the thing is that freaking out won't help you. If you freak out, you have 2 problems. You have the ankle and you have the freak out. And I can tell you that the freak out is much more of a problem for your immune system than the ankle, because your body can handle things like dealing with pathogens and toxins and injuries. Your body has a very hard time dealing with stress. And so when you freak out, drive your cortisol sky high, then all kinds of things are negatively impacted in your body. So it really pays just to handle your life, whatever happens, with equanimity.
Thank you. And that's really where I want to go today, because I not truly believe, I know, we both know, and we're both friends with Dean Radin, that thoughts do create material reality. And so right now we are living in what could be a potential positive dream. I actually see us as being able to make an energetic state change as humanity here, but we are temporarily living a creative nightmare. In fact, the song "To Freak" from the 70s comes to mind. What is the panic in the psychosphere today? What in the world is going on?
I love that word psychosphere. It was coined by this Jesuit priest called Teilhard de Chardin in the 1950s, and it refers to the totality of consciousness on the planet. Just like we have an atmosphere and there are storms and tornadoes and hurricanes and clouds and weather that pass through the atmosphere, there's a consciousness bubble around the earth. That's the psychosphere. And we are both contributing to it and being influenced by it. And for most people, I talk about this a lot in Mind to Matter in the first chapter and the last chapter. And so for most people, they're really attuned to it, and it's actually shaping their consciousness. So they're participating in whatever kind of craziness is running through the psychosphere right now. That is a profoundly unhelpful and unproductive thing to do. And what's much more productive and helpful for your body, for your emotions, for your mood, is to decide to hook up to what I call in Mind to Matter, non-local mind. Meditate, and then the parts of the brain that have to do with creating the self. It's primarily a piece of tissue right in the middle over here, behind your eyebrows, called the medial prefrontal cortex. And it's assisted by another part of the brain in the back called the posterior cingulate cortex. And these 2 axes of the brain are the axis of creating the self And the self is usually suffering. And so people who are unhappy have these parts of the brain highly active. People who are really happy are able to quiet those parts of the brain. And so in meditation, what we find is those parts of the brain get quiet. You lose your clinging to local reality and the local psychosphere. You tune into non-local mind, and suddenly it's calm, it's peaceful, it's creative, it's inspired, and you just go hang out there for a while in meditation. You then start to do things. And when you start to do things in your local reality, they're very different things if they're attuned to non-local reality, including the molecules you create in your body. So I've done several randomized controlled trials of cortisol, for example. And if you go to PubMed or Medline and look up my name, you'll find a lot of studies I've done in that big US government database of research. And we show that if you meditate, if you use EFT acupressure tapping, if you use other kinds of energy therapies, you radically shift your levels of stress, your mood, and then your cortisol changes as well. When your cortisol goes down, all kinds of positive neurochemicals go up. So you're literally using your mind, using your consciousness, detaching from all the craziness, tuning into non-local mind. You're literally creating a whole different molecular reality inside your body.
Woohoo!
I wish I could do that, Michael.
You just did, Dawson.
I'll delegate that to you.
All right. So, we've been doing during this time period an online YouTube live tapping event each evening to help shift people. And then we do a group meditation, kind of a Lynn McTaggart power of 8, because I believe that we can also feed back in as well. And I think that in this time, we're actually able to leap over. There's a positive, I'm almost calling it like a rainbow bridge of the here and now, where we can change energetic states if instead of worrying about the little me, the small self right now, we flicker. We keep flickering. We see the darkness, we go to light. We see the darkness, we go to light. We become a bright and shiny light bulb of sending love and light into the psychosphere, into everywhere. And we literally become a light warrior and are positively shifting the planet.
In Mind to Matter, I talk about this phenomenon that's been studied extensively over the last 30 years called emotional contagion. And we have models of how infectious disease spreads. Mm-hmm. That's the whole science of epidemiology, how epidemics get going. And so some really smart, bright researchers said, let's apply that model of epidemiology to emotions. And what happens when people are positive or negative? And it turns out that if you're positive, your next door neighbor is 34% more likely to be happy, and his next door neighbor, who you don't even know, is roughly 15% more likely to be happy. So your happiness spreads several layers out in this form of emotional contagion. If you're unhappy, the same thing happens, except it's not as strong an effect. There's a less strong effect from unhappy people, but a stronger effect from happy people. And so in this way, we're literally able to shift the emotional reality of people around us. In one famous experiment, the researchers tweaked the Facebook feeds of a few people to be either darker, more negative emotion, or lighter, more positive emotion. Within 2 weeks, that small group of initial people on Facebook had produced emotional contagion in 750,000 other people. Okay, so that's the psychosphere. That's this surrounding energy and consciousness in which we're embedded. And so if you, rather than listening to that and importing the craziness out there in the world into your consciousness, if instead you're tuning into non-local everyday meditation, downloading that, you then become this agent of positive infection. I did a class with people this last weekend, a virtual class with a whole bunch of people, and they began with these long faces looking very grim and serious. By the first break, they were laughing and joking and making light of all their worries. By the end, everyone was just in such a good mood. And you really can shift that. You can change your own internal consciousness. It changes those molecules in your body. You then produce emotional contagion around you. And one person like that can influence a whole community.
Woohoo! What this leads to is the real virus isn't the virus. the real virus, the real emotional contagion that we have going on right now is the fear that's circumnavigating the globe. And if we can somehow put a pattern interrupt in there and switch, we can change everything. So how do we begin to do that?
Only with yourself. Only with yourself. Trying to change the world out there without changing yourself is projecting all of the things going on in you out there. And instead of trying to fix stuff out there, we instead focus on developing calm and developing states of positive emotion, elevated emotion internally. That again is changing our biochemistry, and then that starts to shift people around us. We then produce positive emotional contagion around us, and that then spreads. But it starts with me. I can't produce peace in the world if I'm in inner turmoil myself. I first of all have to produce peace in myself. So what I do, I practice just unplugging. It's not that I'm not aware of what's going on. I'm very aware of what's going on, but I also use the input of that non-local mind into my own local awareness.
Yes.
And I attune myself there. So what research shows that within 15 minutes of waking up, most people have picked up their smartphone and they check their social media, they check their email, they check their text messages. They're plugged into that stuff out there. Immediately, they're using that stuff out there as input in their consciousness. And that old saying in computing, garbage in, garbage out. If you're just putting all this garbage into your consciousness, then of course you're going to have a very disturbed consciousness. What I encourage people to do is not do that. Don't assault your consciousness by dumping in the garbage happening in all the uninformed media that there is around you. Instead, tune in to the universe. And in the universe, people talk about, I have a new book coming out soon called Bliss Brain, and it's all about it's all about the ecstatic states you get to in meditation. And it turns out that when you get into Bliss Brain, when you attune to the universe, you're in tune then with all the love, all the creativity, all the productivity, all the kindness and compassion of that. If that fills your awareness and you then move into the world, into your workday, into your family, with that as your predominant theme in your consciousness, suddenly you see the world as a very different place. In Bliss Brain, I cover research showing that people in those flow states you get to in meditation, they aren't just feeling better privately, internally, they are 5 times as productive when they get to work. They are 460% more likely to solve a complex problem. So their complex problem ability quadruples, their productivity quintuples, and suddenly they're far more able, they're far more capable when they're at work. So this isn't just benefiting you in the meditative state. The effect, according to research done at Harvard, actually persists for 48 hours afterwards. You're more creative, more productive. So you're having an impact on the world outside of you, as well as an impact internally in terms of cortisol and DHEA and oxytocin. And I cover 7 molecules in the new book, Bliss Brain. 7 molecules of bliss you produce in these elevated states, and you then export that elevated mood to the world around you.
Awesome, awesome. And I want to dive into some of these molecules here. First, let's talk about stress and the immunoglobulin response.
Yeah, you get a PhD just for saying it, immunoglobulins. So this is so fascinating. I began to study immunoglobulins about 5 years ago, and I published some papers on them. And what we show is that if your immune system is functioning at peak, you of course produce more immunoglobulins. And immunoglobulins are really crucial molecules. They're in your sinuses, they're in your nose, the mucus around your eyes, your mouth, your digestive tract. And what they do is they tag bacteria and viruses. They're shaped like a Y, the letter Y. And when they, for example, encounter a virus, they stick to the virus. And once they've stuck to the virus, once you have a few immunoglobulins sticking to the outside of the virus, that tells the body this is a pathogen, and the body whacks it, kills it. And so immunoglobulins are crucial. And in one study I did, we had people doing eco-meditation for a weekend. We measured their cortisol, we measured their heart rate, we measured all kinds of their physiological markers as well as their psychological mood. And we found that in just a weekend of doing this, their cortisol dropped significantly, so their stress levels were dropping, but their immunoglobulins rose by 27% in just a weekend. That's a quarter more immunity. We then did another study of EFT tapping, with people tapping during the day, and then at a live workshop. And then they were doing eco-meditation each morning. So the combination of morning eco-meditation and then tapping during the day. Their immunoglobulins, Michael, when I got these results back from the laboratory, I was like absolutely stunned, because we found that their cortisol in just 1 week, their baseline cortisol, stress biochemistry, dropped by 37%, which frees up all kinds of molecules, biologically useful molecules, for building good stuff, like cell repair hormones. But in that same week, their immunoglobulins rose by 113%. They had a doubling of the number of immunoglobulin molecules in their saliva. So in other words, they were more than twice as resistant to bacteria, to viruses, to airborne pathogens. So when we think about these practices like changing your energy through EFT tapping or through eco-meditation, they aren't just mystical experiences that feel good subjectively. They're producing massive positive biological shift inside your body.
Would you say that getting our stress levels down, which and you're doing both, stress levels down and immunoglobulins up, but getting the stress levels down is perhaps the number one, outside of not going and giving a hug necessarily, although I'm such a big hugger and I know you are too, but maybe there's something to social distancing, flattening the curve, but the number one we can thing to do individually is get our stress levels down during this time?
The number one thing you can do is get your stress level down all the time. At times like this, times of crisis, that's important. But in every other time, why not get your stress level down? In one of the studies I talk about in Mind to Matter, we look at the cumulative effect of stress reduction over time. So if I say today I meditate, I tap, which I did this morning, which I do every morning, which I do addictively because it just feels so good, and you have all these pleasurable neurochemicals sloshing around in your brain. But you do this on a regular basis, and it is so powerful. It shifts you. So you do this on a regular basis. You're changing your internal biochemistry, your stress levels going down. Yeah. And so that makes you feel better this morning. But then you do it again tomorrow, and you feel better tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. So the cumulative effect of positive emotion is really interesting. And where you can measure this is in telomere studies and longevity studies. So telomeres are these end caps on your chromosomes that are the primary and most reliable marker of aging. And we find that people who de-stress themselves, who don't stress, who find a way of de-stressing through meditation, through tapping, through various other things, their telomeres are much more resilient, much more abundant than people who don't do that, people who are already stressed. And so over time, there are these molecular markers. And so positive mood and negative mood then over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years cumulatively produce an effect. So when you're 25 years old, you probably aren't thinking too hard about this. Certainly not when you're 15 or 18 or 19 or 30. When you're 45, you're thinking about the quality of your life and the length of your life. When you're 75, you're definitely thinking about that. And what this massive 30-year study that I describe in Mind to Matter showed, a 30-year longitudinal study, was that people with positive mood, especially optimism, were much more likely to make it to age 80. And when they hit age 80, on average, they lived 10 years longer than pessimists, okay? So that's the short term, it's a positive mood today. Long term, it's a longer life with less disease than somebody who has negative mood or stress. So you really want to do this for yourself, not just in the short term to overcome the current crisis, but as a long-term lifestyle practice, which will benefit you throughout the whole of your life.
Thank you, thank you. And that literally, it's another book you have, Genie in Your Genes. When you are doing this, you are literally flipping your genes. And I believe that we can literally actually flip genes so that we are stronger and less susceptible to things like viruses, can't we?
I had a wonderful example of that recently. A close friend of mine has written a book now about her experiences, and she phoned me 2 years ago. She was in a total panic. She said, I've had a gene test. She had breast cancer. She had a diagnosis of breast cancer. She said, I've had a gene test, and I have 8 defective genes, some of which predispose me to breast cancer. So I said to her, well, Beth, you have 24,000 genes in your cells. That means you have 23,992 that are just fine. Now, she really was right to be worried because she had a massive tumor. She had a 5-centimeter tumor, 2-inch wide tumor, solid tumor on top of her right breast. It had spread, the cancer had spread to all the lymph nodes underneath her right armpit. The doctors then found 3 spots of inflammation on her right lung. So it looked as though this cancer was now spreading throughout her body. And she got the diagnosis, and they wanted her to do conventional treatment, but she decided to hold off on it just for a little while and explore what energy could do. So she began to do all kinds of energetic things to shift her energy state. She did Qigong. Mm-hmm. My wife and I did tapping with her. Mm-hmm. She began to meditate regularly. She cleaned up her diet. She got hyperbaric oxygen. She went and did Laetrile in Mexico. She did all these energy things, energy healing, but that practice I mentioned of detaching yourself from the craziness out there and really orienting yourself to non-local mind, she did that, and she got rid of all the stresses in her life. She just turned off her alerts on her cell phone, quit listening to the news. I mean, she really cleaned up not just her body, but her consciousness. So she got that diagnosis in March of 2017. She then went back to this big hospital called MD Anderson, very, very famous chain of cancer hospitals, went back to MD Anderson just 8 weeks later, mm-hmm. and the tumor had shrunk from 5 centimeters to 1.4 centimeters, and all the lymph nodes under her armpit were completely clear of cancer. She later got what's called a blood biopsy, showed not a trace of cancer in her body, and the tumor had shrunk to nothing. So that's the power of energy and consciousness to heal our bodies.
Thank you. So I want to dive into some functional things we can do today. I began by joking about singing in the shower, but I'm actually serious about that. We start our day right now. We've got Pharrell Williams with Happy and Don't Worry, Be Happy. And we're just playing all this happy music and literally singing and dancing. After we do our meditation, we do our automatic writing, we get out of bed, we get in this ecstatic state. What am I doing? How is that helpful? What can we all do?
Okay. So in Mind to Matter, I lay out about 30 practices that you can try that have been shown by various studies to shift gene expression. And so what I think everyone should do is 2 things. I think tapping and meditation are non-negotiable. Meditation provides you with a baseline of well-being at the start of each day. Tapping then reduces your stress when you get knocked off your baseline during the day. So when you get a phone call or an email or read a news report or watch a movie that disturbs you, then you tap. So those 2 things are fundamental. There are 30 other things in Mind to Matter you can do. Time in nature is one. Everyone needs time in nature. You need to go out into the woods. You need to go put your feet in a stream. You need to go walk on the beach. You need some kind of contact, stillness with nature. And research shows that people who have what I call nature deficit disorder, not enough nature, don't do as well. So there are 30 things like this. Grounding is another one. Grounding is one. Yoga is one. Qigong, Tai Chi. So I have 30 of these practices in Mind to Matter, and the others are ones you do that fit your lifestyle. If you're living in the middle of Manhattan, then it's probably going to be hard to do some of them. But there are others you can do. So you want to adapt it to your lifestyle. If you have 4 kids all at home and all needing your attention, saying meditate for an hour and a half every morning is really unrealistic. But you can ground for 5 minutes every day. You can ground yourself. You can tune into the universe. There are all kinds of things you can do. So you want to look at those 30 practices in Mind to Matter and pick the ones that fit your unique lifestyle. If people say to me, which one is best, Dawson? I say the one that's best is the one you will actually do. So it's choosing one that fits your lifestyle.
Very good. And going to singing specifically, can you tell us about anything about resonance, about frequency?
Resonance is really important. I was just blown away when I was writing Mind to Matter. I mean, I began, when I first began writing Mind to Matter, I thought I would find a bunch of links in the chain from thoughts to things. I didn't think I'd find every link in the chain, but I was able to find absolutely every single link in the chain between thought and a thing. And frequency and resonance is one of those characteristics that is found throughout nature. Just like when you, for example, are holding a guitar or a violin and there's music playing somewhere else, you can feel that body of that violin or guitar vibrate, even though you aren't plucking a string. So there's frequency and resonance throughout nature, throughout the whole of the earth. There are all these huge geomagnetic cycles going on that are planet-sized, planet scale, but there are also small ones going on. And that's chapter 3 of Mind to Matter, and attuning ourselves to these frequencies and these rhythms. And they are, the ones I really focus on in the book are the ones we generate endogenously inside our own brains. When you get quiet, when you breathe in a heart coherent rhythm, then your brain waves change. The whole flow of information and energy inside your brain starts to shift. And so that's all flipping when you do a meditation. And then that energy signature of your brain changes. For example, theta waves expand and delta waves expand. These waves then do things in your body. And I was astonished to read the research showing that when you generate certain waves like theta and delta, you produce an increase in stem cells in your body. Your body needs stem cells to repair damaged tissue. Your stem cell production goes up. Some of those frequencies, again, resonate with other parts of your body. Your DNA repair can go up dramatically. Yet other parts of other frequencies you generate in meditation with your own brain. Again, this is all done purely with your own brain. And in the book, I have charts showing you how big those changes are that you experience. Like, for example, this one woman who we tested, she had a lot of beta, and beta is the signature wave of stress and panic. When she had a lot of stress and panic, those healing waves of theta and delta disappeared. So you really seriously want to be attenuating that beta. You want to be limiting that beta. You want to be using tapping meditation to reduce those panic-driven beta waves. And that allows alpha, theta, and delta to expand. That's then signaling your cells and producing this resonance inside your body that's increasing your telomere length, that's increasing your stem cell production, that's raising different kinds of hormones. I talk in Mind to Matter about anandamide, which is also called the bliss molecule. Anandamide is a Sanskrit word for bliss, and it docks with the same receptor sites in your brain as THC. So now you're basically generating your own, and THC is the active ingredient in marijuana. So THC is the molecule of marijuana that makes you high, but you don't need marijuana to get it. If you just meditate and fill your brain with natural endogenous anandamide, you get blissed out. You also produce a huge rise in serotonin. And again, the reason that psilocybin, magic mushrooms, works, essentially it's synthetic, outside the body serotonin. But when you meditate in that way, you produce floods of serotonin. I was leading a whole group in meditation last month, and one guy came to me afterwards and said, I was having these visions, these beautiful visions of the universe speaking to me, and he was describing flowers and music and sights and sound. And this guy sounded like he was on a psilocybin hallucinogenic drug trip, and he was, except that he generated all that imagery through a rise in serotonin in his brain. So now you're meditating, you're having a rise in anandamide, THC, you're having a rise in serotonin, psilocybin, you're having a rise in dopamine, cocaine. So you're now having all of these wonderfully pleasurable hormones and neurotransmitters sloshing around in your body, and you feel absolutely wonderful. And what I found is that as people practice this over and over again, they enter the state that I call Bliss Brain. That's how Mind to Matter feeds into the whole idea of entering Bliss Brain. And the other thing, Michael, is these substances are highly addictive. Once you've felt that anandamide surge and you felt that serotonin surge, you're hooked. No one has to tell you, oh, you should go meditate every day. You are so hooked. I talked to one lady who showed up at a live workshop, and she said, I made a pledge to myself. I was going to do your eco meditation every single day without fail for 90 days. So I said to her, well, what day are you on right now? She She said, oh, I'm on day 131 because she couldn't stop. She got totally hooked on all these pleasurable neurochemicals, and that's why people tend to keep on going once they've had that first experience with them.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to dive into an eco meditation in just a few minutes. A few last questions before we do that. Is there one more important molecule that we get to think about, particularly at this time?
There is, and there's several of them, but the one that really drives a lot of signaling in the brain is oxytocin. And oxytocin is the bonding hormone. So it's also called the hug drug, cuddle drug, but because we make lots of it when we hug other people, and we make lots of it when we think positive thoughts or altruistic thoughts about other people, we touch a baby, that even just stroking your own face, you can start to see oxytocin rise. And when you do this, when you meditate, you have this flood of oxytocin and you're bonding with that now the default mode network of the brain, that suffering part of the brain, the mid-prefrontal cortex and the posterior cingulate cortex, the focus of self has disappeared. So you're now bonding with the universe. And this is the experience of oneness that the mystics have described throughout the centuries. They've described how they lose themselves in oneness with the universe. They're in this blissful embrace of the universal lover. They're having this intense experience of love. Michael, when I open my eyes off meditation most mornings, I'm so filled with gratitude and love. I sometimes just cry. I'm just like breathing. I can't even give enough thanks for just the privilege of one breath. So, and this is true whether you've torn up your ankle at a dance or like I had an auto accident the same week, and this young man just got blinded by the sun and drove into my drove right into my car, and he was like, we were there by the side of the road for a long time waiting for help, and he was saying to me after a while, we got talking about his career and stuff. He said, you know, you're completely calm. I can't believe this. I hit your car. I'm so sorry. And you're just completely calm. So that's the beauty of it. After a while, we get to that space of complete calm. We are no longer being triggered by everything. So you have this experience of meditation where you feel one with the universe, but then you bring that calmness to everything that happens around you. And that's the beauty of in evoking these states, because then you're bringing them not just into your experience during meditation, it filters out to every other experience in your life, and you start to feel really wonderful regardless of what's going on around you. You don't get sucked into all the craziness of society or whatever else is stimulating your awareness.
Thank you. Thank you. A couple more questions, then we'll dive into this meditation. I keep on feeling called to ask about drinking a glass of water, holding it to your heart, and radiating a blessing to it. How can that help us and help us during this time?
That is another piece of research that I was amazed by when I was writing Mind to Matter. The last half of Mind to Matter is all about how our consciousness affects molecules in the world around us. So it's a no-brainer. I mean, no one's going to argue with me that when I get more stressed, I make more cortisol. When I get less stressed, I make less cortisol. So I'm literally triggering the genes that code for cortisol or DHEA, and I'm doing that by my consciousness. So not controversial that I'm triggering molecular change inside my body using my mind. But what is really cool is that you can trigger change outside of your body and molecules outside of yourself. There are studies showing that we can affect electromagnetism. Literally, we can affect electromagnetic fields using our minds at a distance when we're in those theta delta healing frequencies. And then water. Water is a structure, one big oxygen, two little hydrogens, H2O, and it has a bonding angle at which those three molecules come together. And that bonding angle is 104.5 degrees. And that's just a chemical fact. That's always 104.5. So if you look at water, look at its molecular structure and its bonding angle, that is a fact. It's 104.5 degrees at the angle at which the two hydrogens stick to the oxygen. Except when you take that water and you bless it. Put your hands around it, send healing intentions from your heart, do radiant loving intentions, and impregnate that water with those intentions, that bonding angle changes. Without you even touching the water, the molecular bonding angle actually shrinks when you do that. So there's that. There are lots of other studies I mentioned in the book as well about how molecules around us are literally altering using our own consciousness.
And how does changing the molecules, because we are walking, talking bags of water, how does changing the water molecules change us?
One of those interesting series of studies was done by a McGill University professor called Bernard Grad, and he would have healers bless the water, and then he'd use the water for various things. One was wound healing. He'd apply those little tiny wounds they'd make on the backs of mice, and then they'd use the water, and they found that the wounds healed faster. In other studies, they had the water, and they watered plants with it, and they found that the plants grew much stronger, much healthier, much quicker with the blessed water than the unblessed water. And another recent study that followed on from that showed that plants watered with blessed water had more chlorophyll in them than other plants. So it's literally shifting the biology of living organisms like mice, like plants. And so when we ingest that blessed water, what I was fascinated to find out too is that sacred traditions, Hinduism, even Christianity, there's a tradition around Easter of blessing the water. Native Americans bless the water. Ancient Hawaiians bless the water. And you just go around the globe, and there are all these water blessing ceremonies. So these ancients clearly knew something that we lost and have now rediscovered, which is that blessing water can change its molecular structure. So this has made me really aware of blessing my food, blessing what I drink, blessing what I eat, blessing things around me. Is it changing the molecules? I can't tell. Is it make me feel good? Absolutely.
Thank you. Woohoo! One more blessing. Tell us about, particularly at this time when we're hunkering down, we're separating ourselves, we're thinking we're going to I, me, my, which is probably the most dangerous phrase that we can come up with. I, me, my, I, me, my, I, me, my. I think the Beatles did it some justice years ago. But tell us about how we can change things by instead going to generosity and thinking of others right now.
All of those positive emotions toward others, like altruism, like compassion, shift things. In Bliss Brain, I read hundreds of scientific studies, and one of the things I found was that we know that meditation changes our brain, but we didn't know how meditation changes our brain or how much meditation changes our brain until recently. And meditation changes our brain a whole lot. In Mind Matter Chapter 1, I have the story of Graham Phillips, who went on an 8-week mindfulness journey, and in 8 weeks, the part of his brain that governs emotional regulation, how upset you get, how good you feel, that part of his brain grew by 22.8% in 8 weeks. That's how quickly we can remodel our brains using our minds. So when in Bliss Brain, I explain the 3 things that have been shown to produce the quickest neural plasticity. And again, you don't want to be doing meditations that don't move the needle. You don't want to be doing practices that aren't very helpful. I mean, they may be mildly helpful, but what does science tell you? Like, I heard a lot of opinions from meditation teachers, meditation methods, meditation schools. This works, we like that. Well, what does the hard science tell us? And one of the 3 things that moves the needle the most is compassion. If you sit there and you feel compassion for others, that triggers neuroplasticity quicker than anything else. So actually, I was talking to Dan Siegel, a friend of mine, who's a famous professor at UCLA, author of several best-selling books. And Dan and I both have added compassion and boosted the compassion component of our meditation methods based on this new research. If you feel that compassion for others, maybe you can't hug them, but certainly you can hug them in your mind and produce a flood of oxytocin. You can, absolutely. You can feel compassion in your heart for them. And when you do that, you don't have to do anything physical. Just that feeling of compassion is producing biochemical changes in your body.
Woohoo! I've got to ask then, Dawson, what are the other 2 things?
And I explain how I came to this conclusion. Because again, I wrote this book, Michael, because no one was talking about this stuff. Like people, there's no explanation for what was important. There's this massive data out there. How do you make sense of it all? So in Bliss Brain, I'm trying to explain for my housekeeper how you do this. So compassion is crucial. Doing it in groups is more effective than doing it alone. So if you are in a meditation group, that is more effective. Now I've been playing around now with online groups, and with virtual groups. I'm not sure if they're as effective, but in-person groups for sure are more effective than doing it alone. So the third thing is intensity. And I train you in the various meditations I offer, the longer ones, to feel the physical feeling of connection with non-local mind, but then I'll describe doubling it in intensity. And you can literally double the intensity of your feeling of connection with non-local. And so intensity is the third thing. And you can literally dial it up. I'm feeling the sense of oneness, the sense of bliss. Double it. And if you can, when you give people that instruction, they sit there and they go into bliss. I took people for a 7-day retreat over New Year's, and we had a team of 3 neuroscience experts there, hooking them up to EEGs, monitoring their brain waves before and after. And beforehand, their brain waves were all over the place. Meditators were a little more coherent. In Mind Matter, I talk about coherent mind and coherent brain waves. So the meditators were a bit more coherent than non-meditators, but they were where they were. After 7 days meditating in a group, people had coherent brain waves, and they were able to get to Bliss Brain in 4 minutes or less. One person was able to close her eyes and get to Bliss Brain in 47 seconds. Now, other research, like Admiral Newberg's wonderful book, How Enlightenment Changes Your Brain, he says it takes 20 to 40 minutes to get there. And we usually find that. You close your eyes, start to meditate. It takes 20 to 40 minutes to really let the distractions fall away and get in the groove. After 7 days meditating in a group, intensifying the meditation, one person got there in 47 seconds. Many people get there, most people get there in under 4 minutes. So in Bliss Brain, in chapter 1, one section says from 50 years to 50 seconds. It took me 50 years to figure this out. I want you to figure it out in 50 seconds. I don't want you to have to go through the long, painful process many of us meditators had to get this wisdom. I want to package it in a way that people can access it the very first time.
Woohoo! This has been phenomenal, Dawson. I can't thank you enough. And for coming on and kind of an emergency swooped in, do it right before your surgery. I can't thank you enough. Any last words of wisdom before we dive into a brief eco meditation?
As I was working with people in this recent online workshop on panic and fear of the virus, fear of the stock market crash, all this fear they had, treat that as an energy system. That's an energy, and it's speaking to the parts of your brain that respond to the stress response. So it's an energy out there which can awaken all the stress structures in your brain and the stress waves like beta waves, the waves of panic in your brain, which again then suppress the healing waves in your brain. So if you see all these current things going on the world as an energy in which you have a choice of either aligning with that energy, getting into resonance with that energy, or simply not being in resonance with that energy. You meditate, you tune into the universe, you're one with the cosmos, you feel that calm, that love, that compassion flooding your being, and then that's what you're resonating with. What then happens is you find people around you who resonate with that same signal. You're broadcasting the signal, they respond. Suddenly you have a group of people. You have like-minded souls. You're resonating together. You're also then resonating with every other person in the world who's on that same frequency. I know I check this wonderful app called Insight Timer frequently, and I have many meditations on Insight Timer and a bunch of interviews and stuff, and a lot of people meditate through Insight Timer, and at any one time there could be 60, 70,000 people meditating at the same time. We're sharing that frequency. On Insight Timer, some days there are 1 million people meditating that day using the app. We are in that frequency of love, of compassion, of calmness and peace. You're also far more able to produce change in the world when you're in that state. So that's my recommendation, is treat it as an energy, but choose the energy you want to align with. If you want to align with panic, you're going to produce lots of beta waves, you're going to produce lots of cortisol, you won't be very useful in the world. If you align with the universe, if you align with Bliss Brain, then you have a wonderful life, and you're able to do effective things in the world. You aren't just a mystic out there in the cosmos. You're doing real stuff here in the world. So that's what I'm saying is treat this as energy and then choose to align with the highest possible energy level that you can.
Awesome, awesome, which is why we're doing our work and why we see this as the most positive opportunity for incredible positive change in the world, because we see the dark, go to the light, see the dark, go to light, raise yourself up, raise yourself up, raise yourself up, and we can literally positively shift humanity right now. With that said, would you mind leading us in a positively shifting meditation right now?
Start by feeling the breath, moving in and out through your body, and imagine it coming in and leaving, breathing in and out through your heart. Then tap gently on the side of your hand, right underneath the joint that anchors your little finger. And imagine all stress and tension leaving your body. Breathing in and out through your heart. Tapping on the side of your hand. And tap gently on the top of your head as all the stress and tension leaves your body. Tap where your eyebrow meets the bridge of your nose. As you breathe in and out through your heart, and all tension and stress leaves your body. Tap on the side of your eyes. Tap under the pupils of your eyes. Tap under your nose. Tap under your lower lip. Tap under your collarbone, right where it meets your breastbone. As the last of the tension drains from your body. Tap one more time on the side of your hand. Stop tapping, relax your hands. Feel the breath flowing in and out through your heart. Eyes closed. Feel the volume of space inside your feet. Feel the volume of space inside your hands. Feel the volume of space between your eyes. And relax your tongue completely on the floor of your mouth. Breathing in through your heart and out through your heart. Slow your breathing down to 6 seconds per in-breath and 6 seconds per out-breath. Breathing in through your heart, 6 seconds. Breathing out through your heart, 6 seconds. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. And imagine a column of light pouring in through the top of your head, filling every cell in your body, filling your energy field, organizing all the energy centers of your being. As your heart glows with love and compassion in this energy beam. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. Breathing 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Feeling the energy in your heart. And now send a beam of your heart energy to a person or place that you love. It could be a real person you know. It could be a historical figure you admire. It could be a saint or a sage. Send that beam of energy to that person or place. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. Breathing 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And sending that beam of love and compassion to that person or place that makes you feel wonderful. And now expand that energy beam out in all directions from your heart to send love and compassion to every single molecule in the universe. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space. Between your eyes. Breathing 6 seconds in through your heart. Breathing 6 seconds out through your heart. As your heart energy radiates out, to touch every single atom in the universe with love and compassion. And now gently detach your heart energy from every atom in the universe and direct it again at that single person or place that makes you feel wonderful. Notice the color, shape, frequency of your heart energy, directed just to this one person or place. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. Noticing your energy beam connecting you with this person or place. Now gently detach your energy beam and bring it back into your own heart. So it's entirely inside your own body. Breathing 6 seconds in through your heart. Breathing 6 seconds out through your heart. And now send this energy beam from your heart to a part of your own body that needs love. Could be a part of your body that's sick or hurting or struggling or suffering. Send your heart energy beam to that part of your body. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. And now with the next 3 breaths, prepare to end your meditation and bring your awareness back into the here and now, knowing that you're always connected with that source of love and light and life pouring in through the top of your head from the universe. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. Feel the volume of space inside your hands. Feel the volume of space inside your feet. And with the next breath, open your eyes and look around you with soft eyes. Notice the largest green object in your environment. Notice the smallest red object in your environment. Tune into your body and feel how good you feel. And know that you can feel this good. Enter Bliss Brain anytime you choose. So that's the sequence of steps we found in research. Shifts your heart rate variability, shifts your hormone and neurotransmitter production, brings you into this elevated emotional state, and raises your immunoglobulins. We just did that. It's that easy.
I'm jello, Dawson. So, on that note, where can people go to find your beautiful books? And when's your new book coming out? And where can they go to find out more?
Yeah, it's coming out in August of 2020. That's when Bliss Brain comes out. And Mind to Matter is available right now. And there are also 7 free meditations with Mind to Matter. Mind2matter.com is a good place to get access to all of that stuff. And then that'll also give you access to the EFT Tapping manual and another longer EQ meditation and various other goodies, all at mind2matter.com.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get Mind to Matter, and begin creating a positive new reality with your mind today. And shine bright. Woohoo! We did it, Dawson. We did it. You did it. This was awesome. This was awesome.
Bless you. It's wonderful to connect with you again.
If you like this video, then you're a light worker, you're a light warrior, and we need your love and light. We need to crank it up to the max. That's why we're offering boot camps. You can check them out down below. Monday through Friday events, 1 hour a day, almost free, to help you crank your light up to the max, get you in the most positive place possible, boost your immune system to the max, and help you to help the world to shine bright. We're also offering YouTube live events every Saturday and Sunday during this time to help you overcome fear, overcome worry, overcome stress, and again, boost up your immune system. These tapping events, these boot camps, all involve group meditations where we come together, set group intention, help you help yourself, help your family, and help the entire world. You're a light worker. Your time is now, so come join us. Click below for these extra special events. I just had the most beautiful, functional, inspirational interview with Dr. Dawson Church and so many amazing tools on Mind to Matter. To check out more incredible interviews, particularly during this coronavirus time, click here, subscribe below, click on that bell icon to be notified of upcoming premieres, lives, and tapping events. If you like this, be sure to give us a big thumbs up. Leave your comments below. I try to get back to all comments personally. Love you guys so much. Shine bright. Woohoo!